Alright, well, got the Hawk in the shop. Got her all lifted up in the air. There she is, kind of stripped down a little bit. So, got a couple of things I'm doing. Did the oil cooler. Got it on the front. Now these lines right here, way too big. Way too big. You're going to have to do some finagling to get them in there. And I just kind of got them zip tied together. Got my cool down here. My filter. Screen, it really ain't a filter. The line's kind of sticking out. It's kind of close to the exhaust up here, so I'm going to wrap that. So I do got the nib 30 on there. See if I can get down in there. Nib 30. And on my top end, I'm dumping out. I'm not getting the power that I want. So I know a lot of people, took my Kickstarter off just while I'm working on it. You know, a lot of people say, delete that battery box. Delete the battery box when you put the nib on there. So I put the nib on there, or not battery box, but the air filter box. I made it a battery box. I added another battery, went right through the side of the battery, came out and tied it in to the actual battery of the bike. So now I have the battery that came with it, and then I have this little die-hard in here. That's because I've been running extra lights. I got a set right there. Come on whenever I cut on my high beam. I got another set that looks just like it, but these are floodlights that are on here now, and the other two that I'm going to add just underneath it are going to be spots. So I'm going to be running these extra lights. Got a new switch, blue. You can pick the color. This will turn my my spots on and off. My floods come on and off with the high beam right here. So don't just jump in there and cut your air box out. Kind of think about it a minute. See if there might be something else that you can utilize that space for before you take that box out of there. I just did it with this battery. Put this battery in here. So just match the cranking amps to the battery that comes in the bike. And putting two batteries in a bike does not double the cranking amps. As long as you keep the secondary battery at the same cranking amps as the main battery, or a little lower, you're not going to hurt anything. Don't put a battery inside the air box that's got 500 cranking amps, because that's too much. Don't exceed the cranking amps of the bike. Keep that battery matching that cranking amp or a little below it. I don't have that in there to help start it or stop it. I have that extra battery in there to help with the lights. I charge my phone when I'm on it. I'm going to put a USB port on it so that I can get a 12 volt USB heated jacket, so I can put my jacket on when I'm riding the bike. I can plug it into the bike. It'll keep me warm in the jacket, and then when I get off the bike, I can plug it back into the battery, which I won't have used, so I'll have battery for a couple of hours after. Thinking for fishing or just for going out for a ride. But that's her right now today. I'm going to try to get her put back together here real soon. And I did stripped out the screw head that holds the plastic on the side right here, so I drilled that nut out. Now see in here, I got a nut and a bolt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld this nut to the old nut, and then just use this bolt to hold the plastic on the side. I might do the same to the other side. And again, I got this nib 30, but I have a 28 that just came in because I'm dumping at my top end. I'm not getting my full RPMs out of it. I put the biggest jets in it. There's a couple of other things I might try. I'll let you know how that works. I'll let you know what I try if it works. There's a couple of other things I might try with this 30, but I'm going to pop a 28 on there, a nib 28, and see if that 28 would do any better, because a part of me feels like I might just be getting too much air. It's a little bit too big of a carburetor with too much breathe on it. So I'm going to drop it down a little bit and see if that helps to the 28. But before I do that, there's some things inside here I'm going to try to modify myself. and see if I can change a little bit of how this thing runs with this nib on there, because I do like the ability to adjust it. And once I put this carburetor on this bike, my cold starts were amazing. You pull this little choke up here in the back. I don't know if you can see it back here. See a little knob right back there. Yeah, you pull that up, hit it, let it idle until it starts to bog itself down. When you can hear it loading up, turn it off, it idle drops down on it. It idles nice and low, it's quiet. You know, I really like that aspect. I don't know all my neighbors, and I don't generally like too many people, but I don't want to piss them off every morning starting my bike. So I am going to do the wrapping. You can see right back in there where I cut the cat open. I put a little sleeve over it and welded it in. I will say it's not really a catalytic converter. It was like some kind of corrugated metal that was just wrapped up and around in like a ball, like a tube of corrugated metal with little holes through it. And the bike didn't have but a couple 100 miles on it when I did it, and it was already getting pretty trashy on the inside. So I do believe with that little resonator or soot collector that they call a catalytic converter, I do believe that that's just going to plug up fast, especially if your bike gets to running a little rich. You know, so we're going to check out and see how the oil cooler works. Put that on there to try to help bring the temps down, because when I go riding it, I generally ride it for a couple hours at a time, and it's out in the country. And when we come next time you see her, she'll be back together. Have another set of these little lights sitting right here underneath it. I'm going to attach them to the same bracket, which what I did there was took the little reflector off the side and bent that bracket straight out, and then used the side mount ability for these little lights to mount it through that hole. So my plan is, with the other lights that are the same light, it's just this is a wide beam and the other one I'm putting on as a spot. I'm going to take this nut off, do the same side mount, attach it to the nut, and then drop it down so it shoots just out below it. That way I'll have them both on the same nut at the same place. And then I'm going to do a little bit of welding in here where I bent it, where it bent out. I'm going to just fill that with a little bit of weld to kind of stiffen that weakened metal up, because as I've been riding it, I've been kind of bending on it and twisting on it and trying to get them pointed where I like it. And as far as those lights go, they're right in the immediate area around the front of the bike. They do a really good job. They're bright. They light up the road right in front of me. I can see a lot better. The other two that I'm putting on is because I need to get out, because this bug attractor right here, that's about what it's good for, just attracting the bugs when you're sitting on the side of the road. Doesn't put out very far. It has an adjustment screw down here on the bottom, which will allow it to roll up and down, but for some reason they don't like to come all the way up, and they still shoot about 6-7 feet out in front of the bike. But you know, added the LED bulb, which made it brighter, and then added those two and adding 2 more. And now with my extra battery in there, I'm not going to be quite as worried about how much power I'm utilizing. That's about it. And with that battery being in that bike where it is, see if I can do this without really looking, because I can still get my battery cover on there, or my airbox cover on there. I can still screw that down, and that keeps that battery hidden over. That way I doesn't accidentally hit something short out. And these 2 chunks of cardboard is the box that the original battery came in. Folded up and just stuffed down in there to hold the battery still for right now. Eventually I think I might shoot just a little bit of, pull this battery out, wrap it with some cookie sheet paper, set it back in there, and then shoot a little spray foam around it. Let it foam up, let it harden up so it's got a little cup in there surrounding that battery. Then pull the battery out, rip the cookie sheet paper out, and I'll be able to slide that battery in and out of there. I might also do something with a bungee from right here to right here. I think you can get a replacement for the bungee on the actual battery, and if that's the case, then I'll screw it to here and run it to here. But as it sits right now, it's in there pretty good. It doesn't really go anywhere. And then I can slip this little top back on there just to help keep everything buttoned up. They couldn't have picked a worse spot to put this top, by the way. I just don't Like they said, hey, figure out the hardest little spot to get that in, put it in there. That way it pisses the Americans off. Stick that back in. I'll pull this little thing out right here. I'll pull this out. I'm not sure what module this is. Haven't really done a bunch of research yet to figure out which one it is. Just slide that back into place like so. And that's just back together. Alright, we'll catch y'all when I get her put back together.